Welcome to episode number 244 of Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto. I am obviously your host, Elizabeth D'Alto. And if you are new to the podcast, these are shorter solo episodes, 10 to 20 minutes, that go a bit deeper and can be a little more esoteric than our regular interviews. So during Sunday sermons, I do things like oracle readings or share my favorite prayers and poems, excerpts from what I'm reading or studying right now. Sometimes I just riff on, what's up in the world or what's up in my life or what's at the top of my mind or the top of my heart. These are like wild and untamed gospel, heart ponderings, and delicious morsels of wisdom filled with creative and inspiring ideas, thoughts, and ruminations to spark the truth, power, wisdom, and love that lives within you. All belief systems are welcomed here on the show. My truth, ponderings, experiences, and curiosities are simply that, my own. So no matter what your faith is, may you get exactly what you need from listening to this. And may you remember always that everything you've ever needed has always been inside of you. You were made from love, you are love, and you are loved. So today's sermon, sometimes I write these out. Sometimes it's kind of like I haven't really blogged in years. Every once in a while, I'll write a blog post. I'll post it up on our site or I'll post it up on Medium or something when I really feel like writing. But one of the reasons why I even started doing these Sunday sermons back in August of 2017 is because I am an insatiable, curious person and like a voracious reader. I'm always learning. I'm always studying. Sometimes when I'm in a high creation mode, like I recently was from December to March around like the trust assessment, when I'm creating and when I'm writing a lot, creating content, I don't necessarily read as much or study as much. But then when I come out of those phases, I'm learning. I love learning. And I know that we have people, listeners like that as well. So it's fun to just have a creative outlet, to have a place to just geek out on that stuff. And, may it be useful for you or not. I get a lot of feedback that people love these sermons because they love to explore. I think our minds are made for that. I think one of the things that keeps us young is to exercise our mind and learn new things and expand our horizons and our viewpoints, our perspectives, have conversations with people who aren't looking or thinking or living like we are. And, obviously that's a big theme of the show. So, sometimes I write these out because I'm exploring a thought or having an idea, or I just read something or want to do an oracle reading. Other times I just want to riff. And so today's kind of just a riff. It may or may not be all over the place. Who knows what I'm going to end up talking about, but something that's been really top of mind for me lately and has come up in several ways is, now that we have rebranded the podcast as Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto, it's no longer Untamed the Wild Soul, but we still have two types of episodes. We have our interviews where I'm exploring all kinds of things related to society and culture with guests. And then we have these Sunday sermons where I still keep it, it's pretty spiritual. It's pretty esoteric. One of my friends described it as, wild soul movement is woo-woo. And everything you're doing now is like woo. So it's like you removed a woo. So, everything I ever do is going to be organized around self-mastery, personal empowerment, right? I hear people, I was reading something on Instagram earlier today from someone I connected with recently talking about how she empowers people. And I always cringe a little bit when people say that they empower others. In my belief system, you can't empower someone else. You can facilitate their empowerment. You can make it easier for them to see what's already inside of them, what's like amazing and magnificent. You can help people to see their blocks or work through their triggers or their blind spots. But you truly, at the core of everything I create, still is the idea that everything you've ever needed has always been inside of you. I can't give you something you don't have. I don't have anything that you need. There's this Ram Dass quote that sometimes gets attributed to Rumi. And I recently did some research. I'm quite certain Ram Dass said it, not Rumi. We're all just walking each other home. We need each other. This is why we need communities or tribe or people. I know the word tribe gets really charged up for people sometimes. However it is that you think about that, we need other humans. We need other people. We need groups of people, whether those are online groups or offline groups. So something that's been at the top of mind for me lately is diversity, and not just racial diversity or ethnic diversity or gender diversity. I just had a great call with a new friend this morning. We were talking about cognitive diversity, which is how people think. People think so differently. I started dating recently. I took like a year and a half off. I was calling it my man hiatus or my man sabbatical. And I was talking to a friend. I saw this meme a couple years ago, this term dick-stracted. So instead of distracted, distracted. And I was saying how nice it was for a year and a half to not be distracted. Not that I'm letting that happen to myself now, getting all distracted by men or anything like that. But I started dating. And there was this part of me that was really resistant because I was like, is this really worth the time? Like, you meet someone, you don't know if you like them. There's all these awkward conversations. Some people are good at conversations, some people aren't. So much of it's happening on text now. I'm a way more direct communicator. I'm trying out this dating app. It's hilarious to me how it all works. But I decided to just treat it as a social experiment and meet new people. And let this be one of the ways in which in my life I can get out of my bubble. I can get out of my curated world. Most of my friends are entrepreneurs. A lot of people have similar viewpoints that I do. Some people care more about things like justice and activism than others. Some people are in like the love and light crew. So it's really fun, I'm finding, dating to meet just like what I'm going to call, not in a derogatory way, but just like normal, like regular ass people, who like work 9-to-5 jobs. It's awesome. Some people have kids, some people don't. Some people are socially awkward. Some people are kind of like smooth, and I'm wondering if they're a player. It doesn't matter. It's just a cool time to also be able to practice deep compassion and acceptance and non-judgment for people, whether it's like a beach walk or a coffee date, or, you are hanging out more intimately with someone. It's cool to spend time with new people and navigate all these things. And also to see all these deep practices I have and how it shows up in newer relationships, in much more uncertain kinds of environments where you don't know someone. And as intuitive as anyone could be, I can read people, I can guess things about people, but just like letting things unfold and letting things arise. And I think it's easy for me to do that because I'm not attached. I'm not like trying to like meet my next partner or find my husband. I just am like dating for fun and letting it be a social experiment. I've never done this. I'm 34 years old. I've probably up to this point gone on like 5 or 6 dates ever in my life that were actually dates. I just have always met great people or people who I thought would be great. Sometimes they were, and sometimes they were like the next lesson or group of lessons I needed in my life, which is one of the functions of relationship. But so it's been super fun. So there's been that, but then there's also, now I have these 2 different brands, practically 2 different companies. There's Wild Soul Movement, which is my women's empowerment / embodiment work around sensuality and spirituality. And so much of that is about helping women connect to themselves, finding their own truth, using their own voice, in some cases reorienting their relationship to religion or the divine or spirituality. In some cases, helping people integrate and recognize the different energies and archetypes that exist within them, whether that's masculine and feminine, which some people don't like to put it in a binary like that. For me, I find it's just an easy way to understand the energies. We need language. The problem with so many of these things is that in order to understand and explain and teach and learn about them, we need to put language to it. And so often we're putting language to things that are indescribable. And so we're just doing our best. And some things land for people, some things don't. As always, we are very aware and doing the best we can to continue to learn and inform ourselves so that we're not offending people or ostracizing people or marginalizing people here. So, but then there's also this new truth telling. And in the last week, I have been batching up some episodes for interviews and inviting all different types of people. I mean, dating coaches, because that's of interest to me right now. People who do different things, someone who's a college professor, just really getting outside of the types of people I've primarily interviewed for the last 2.5, almost 3 years now on the show, because that, I think, is how we bridge so much of the ignorance, so much of our just lack of awareness, There's so many people who do cause harm and offend people and hurt people, not because they're bad people. They're not trying to. There's just so much we don't know that we don't know. And I feel like the more I learn, the less I actually know. The more I think I understand, the more I realize that there's so much to know and understand. So many different cultures, experiences, intersections, right? I had someone in a group I'm in recently share about an experience where someone left her a message, a really rude message about a client of hers that she had in a video. This client was overweight. And this person was very nasty about this person's weight. And that's just, so ridiculous to me. I can't imagine how a person could think that that's an okay thing to send somebody else to criticize them because of the way their body looks. But what also came up around that was a conversation around, body diversity. A couple of years ago, we did Wild Soul Movement tank tops. And I wasn't really involved in the logistics of what company we went with or whatever. I just wanted to get it done. I thought it would be a fun project. And what we didn't realize was that the company that we went with, I think it was called Teespring or something like that, they only carried sizes up to 2XL. And so I got a message from someone who was larger than 2XL saying, I'm very disappointed with the work you do, that you would, I don't think she said ostracize, but that you would alienate is the correct word, larger bodies. And I was so apologetic and so sorry because I was caught in a moment of ignorance for sure. I didn't know what I didn't know. That question to check to see if the sizes came larger than 2XL, that didn't even dawn on me. But it would never not dawn on me ever again like that, right? Like this is how we learn. Sucks that I had to learn that and I didn't just know. So it was just really fascinating, that perspective. And then on that same thread, someone was sharing about how she helps people with body image, but she is naturally a size 10, which, for all of our cultural programming and conditioning, a size 10 might sound large to people who are obsessed with being thin and skinny and like a size 2 or 4. But it's actually, I think, below the average size of the actual body sizes of women, at least here in the US. I can't speak for other countries. So it's so fascinating, these conversations around all the different types of diversities and where people fall in these spectrums and what is their experience. And it reminded me of when I was reading Lovey Ajayi's book, and she had talked about always being very skinny and how when you're very skinny, people are always like offering you a sandwich or telling you need a burger or asking you if you have an eating disorder. And it's unbelievable to me how, as a culture, as a global culture and global society, we're so insensitive. We have all of these needs to be right about like what is correct or what is the gold standard or the mythical norm, as Audre Lorde calls it. All these societal like benchmarks that we feel like we're supposed to be hitting. And then what if you don't, which most of us aren't, because there are these massive ideals that in so many ways are unattainable. So it's so fascinating. So I'm really bumping around all over the place, but the place I want to come back to is realizing how amazing it is. And this goes against like normal business advice. Business marketing people will tell you have to find a lane and like stick with it. Know your niche, know your ideal customer. But I essentially have 2 brands now. I have my Wild Souls and then I have the Truth Telling. And some of it overlaps, right? So those of you who listen to the Sunday sermons, a lot of you listen to the interviews as well. But some people only listen to our interviews and they wouldn't be interested in listening to these Sunday sermons. And it's cool. And I get to explore that. And we're building up a new Instagram just for Wild Soul Movement. So things oriented towards everything and everything under the umbrella of what Wild Soul Movement is about and what Wild Soul Movement stands for, which, by the way, if you've never taken our pledge, if you want to know specifically what Wild Soul Movement is all about, you can go to wildsoulmovement.com/pledge. And if you're on Instagram, you can follow at Wild Soul Movement. I haven't really sent anyone over there yet, so I think we have like 19 followers or something. But we'll make an announcement at some point in the next couple weeks. And then as well, I've taken some time off of social media from posting. I've been like on it and like commenting and reading stuff, but from posting because there was a part of me that had a moment a couple weeks ago. I get messages from people all the time. They love my Instagram stories. I crack them up, which is great. I'm so glad I could bring people joy. But there's a part of me going, why am I doing this? And that was a real big question. And if I can't answer that question, I need to not do it until I know what the answer is. Because what's the friggin' point, right? And I kept hearing like in this Joe Pesci voice, what am I, here to entertain you? And I can't remember if that's from a movie or if that's just from Animaniacs, the Angry Pigeons. But I think it's probably from a movie. Someone could find me somewhere and email me and tell me what that's from. But, and of course I want to like be with the community and engage with our people, but why, right? I don't want to have these codependent relationships with listeners and followers where people feel like they need me, right? Or where anyone feels like they need anything on social media. Like, oh, if I can't read what Danielle Laporte's latest truth bomb is, like, I'm not myself. Like, I think that's a problem. So there's that aspect of it. But then there's also, what actual value is this bringing? So if I'm on Instagram and all I'm doing is, resharing the words of other people or, finding some great messages and sharing it, that's cool. And maybe it's inspiring people. Maybe it's helping people have insights. But what's the actual point? Because then what's happening after that? So you read this meme or you read this idea or you learn about this person. Great. Now you have another person to follow and another thing to think about. But what action are you taking in your life? Like, what are you doing with the information? How are you using it to serve yourself or others? Are you becoming a better person? Is it just more information overload? So fascinating to me. So with the trust assessment, I started running these advanced workshops. So if you haven't taken the trust assessment yet, you could check it out over at thetrustassessment.com. And what happens is you take the assessment and you get a general score. And then you have an option to upgrade to a report that you pay for. It's very inexpensive. It's $19. That will specifically tell you how much you trust yourself in life areas: health, wealth, relationships, and self-mastery. And then from there, there's a workshop you could take if you're really interested in it. And again, I designed all these things because that's how I am. When I get up in something, I want to know more. I'm super interested. I'm super curious. And either it's cool to have an advanced report to be able to read about it yourself. It's for some people, they like to learn. They'd rather have a workshop. They'd rather come on live with me for an hour and a half or 2 hours and learn and get to ask questions and hear what kind of questions other people have. Everyone learns differently, which is why I create all these different things. And so I've been running these workshops, and it's just been really fascinating to see what resonates with who or what's coming up for people in the different areas, the common issues across the board, no matter what people's uniqueness factors are. Uniqueness factors being where a person is from, how they're cultured and conditioned, their belief systems, all kinds of things that make them who they are, socioeconomic status, culture, all these things. So I'm always geeking out on this stuff. And so now that there's kind of this overlap where the common ground is trust, the common ground is speaking your truth and using your voice and aligning with your values and your priorities, it's fun to zoom out and go, how am I actually serving with this, right? So reevaluating how I show up on social media and if I even do it all. And why? Just kind of like that curious 2-year-old that's like, but why? But why? Why, mom? Why, dad? Why is this happening? How does that work? That's kind of how I've been in my own life, my own business over the last couple of weeks. And it's really fun. And I feel really fortunate and blessed to be in a place where I could take that pause and not have to worry about generating or producing or whatever. It's also so interesting. So those are the things. This is a really kind of random mixed bag of a Sunday sermon. I hope any of that landed for you. Any of that inquiry or sharing helped you to see maybe something in your own life that you're curious about or you want to start doing or stop doing. But, these are things that are going on with my mind. I get to be a dynamic person. I get to have 2 different brands or 2 different companies or 2 different types of messages that I believe in equally that in some ways overlap and in other ways don't, so that I can be serving people in a way that is congruent with who you are, who I am, what I believe the world needs. Not from an arrogant or need to be right kind of place, but just what feels right and true and correct to me right now. So I mentioned a bunch of things in this episode. We'll put the show notes over at untameyourself.com/TT-244. That's T as in truth, T as in telling -244. So again, untameyourself.com/TT-244. And yeah, we're gonna be doing some other experiments and switching up some more things with the show this year. We're never gonna stop doing interviews, and I love the sermons. We'll still do this. Who knows? Maybe we'll birth a whole new podcast out of it. But I love being able to reserve the right to pivot or to change my mind or to try something out so I can see if I actually want to do it, as well as see if it's valuable or useful for any of you. What are we actually contributing? What are we actually doing here? Are we helping? Are we not helping? So many questions. Life is a real mix of miracles and horrendous traumas, tragedies, realness, and then also amazing grace. So have an awesome week. Maybe re-listen to that. Pull out of it whatever you dig, and we'll see you next week.